Commander Mark Reynolds stood on the metal bridge of the UEC Valiant. He looked out the big window into space. It was dark and cold. They were near the Veil Nebula. This was the edge of known space. The stars here were far away. "Are we there yet?" Reynolds asked. He sounded tired. It had been a long trip. "Yes, Commander," said David Kim. David was the young tactical officer. He sat in front of many screens. "We are at the meeting point." Reynolds looked at the main screen. He expected to see ships. He expected to see the Seventh Fleet. The Galactic Alliance said the Seventh Fleet was the best. They had big ships and strong lasers. But Reynolds saw nothing. There was only dust and floating rocks. "I do not see any ships," Reynolds said. "Scan the area, David." "I am scanning," David said. His hands moved fast over the keyboard. He looked worried. "Commander, I am not picking up any friendly signals. The computer shows nothing." "Keep looking," Reynolds ordered. "Maybe their communications are down." Then, Sarah Miller walked onto the bridge. Sarah was the chief engineer. She looked at the screen. "Something is wrong," Sarah said. "Space is too quiet." Just then, David jumped in his chair. "Commander, I found something." Reynolds stepped closer. "What is it? Is it the Seventh Fleet?" "No, sir," David's voice shook a little. "It is debris. A lot of it." The picture on the main screen changed. It zoomed in on a field of floating metal. There were big pieces of ships and small pieces of rock. It was a graveyard. "My God," Sarah whispered. "Those are Alliance ships." They looked at the floating metal. The ships were torn apart. It looked like a giant hand had ripped them in half. Reynolds felt a chill in his stomach. The Seventh Fleet was powerful. "Who could do this? Is there anyone alive?" Reynolds asked. "I am checking for life signs," David said. He waited a few seconds. "No, sir. No life signs on the debris. The ships are empty." Reynolds walked to the center of the room. "Stay alert, everyone. We do not know what is out here." Suddenly, the sensors made a loud beep. A red light flashed on David's screen. "Commander, a big object is coming from behind that big asteroid," David shouted. Reynolds looked at the window. A massive ship slowly moved out from the dark. It was not a human ship. It was not an Alliance ship. It was a silicate swarm harvester. The ship was huge. It was shaped like a giant squid. It was dark gray and looked like it was made of stone and metal mixed together. It had long arms that reached out into space. At the end of the arms, there were sharp tools. "It is eating the debris," Sarah said in horror. She pointed to the screen. They watched on the monitor. The alien ship used its arms to grab a piece of a destroyed Alliance ship. It pulled the metal into its mouth. It was grinding the metal down. "It is not just eating," David said. "It is recycling. It uses the metal to fix itself." Reynolds watched the alien ship. It did not move like a normal ship. Normal ships moved smoothly. This ship moved in jerks. It looked like an insect. It was terrifying. "We cannot fight that," Reynolds said quietly. "Our ship is too small. Our guns are not strong enough." "Should we run?" David asked. "No," Reynolds said. "If we run, it might see us. We must be quiet." "Silent running," Reynolds commanded. "Turn off all lights. Stop the engines. Do not make any noise." The crew moved fast. Sarah turned off the power to the non-essential parts of the ship. The lights on the bridge dimmed. The humming of the engines stopped. The Valiant floated in the dark. They were hiding. Everyone held their breath. The big alien ship was close. It was only a few miles away. To a spaceship, that is very close. Is it gone? Sarah whispered after a long time. David looked at his screen carefully. I do not think it sees us. But it is still there. It is still eating. Then, a new sound came from the speaker. It was very faint. Static, beep, static. Did you hear that? Reynolds asked. Yes, David said. He turned up the volume. It is a radio signal. Is it the silicate ship? No, David said. The silicates do not use radio. They use a hive mind. This is a standard Galactic Alliance frequency. Play it, Reynolds ordered. The speaker crackled. A voice broke through the static. It was weak, but it was there. This is Alliance cruiser. Honor. We are trapped. Please, anyone, help us. Then the voice stopped. The signal went dead. They are not all dead, Reynolds said. Someone is alive. Where is the signal coming from? Sarah asked. David typed on his computer. A map appeared on the screen. A small dot flashed in a dense part of the asteroid belt. The signal was coming from inside a dangerous maze of rocks. They are hiding in the asteroid field, Reynolds said. That is smart. The rocks hide their heat signature. The alien harvester ship suddenly turned. It stopped eating the debris. It started to move toward the asteroid field. It knows, Sarah said. It knows they are there. It is going to hunt them, Reynolds said. He looked at the map. The survivors were trapped. If the harvester entered the field, it would find them. The aliens did not have enough power to fight. They would be killed. We have to do something, David said. He looked at the commander. We cannot let them die. Reynolds looked at his crew. He looked at Sarah, who was worried. He looked at David, who was scared but brave. What can we do? Reynolds asked. We have one small ship. That thing is a monster. We are humans, Sarah said. We find a way. Reynolds thought about his orders. Admiral Vance told him to observe and report. He said not to engage. The United Earth Coalition was new to space. They were not as strong as the Alliance. If the Valiant was destroyed, Earth might think space is too dangerous. But Reynolds could not just watch people die. He was a soldier. He had to help. David, Reynolds said. Can we fly through the asteroid field? Yes, sir. The Valiant is small and fast. We can do it. Can we shoot the harvester? David shook his head. Our missiles are too weak against its armor. Our lasers will just tickle it. We have to think differently, Reynolds said. The Alliance likes big battles. They like to shoot from far away. They are losing because they are not used to this. We are used to fighting against the odds, Sarah said. Reynolds nodded. Yes, we are. We are going in. We are going to save them, David asked. We are going to try, Reynolds said. David, prepare the ship. Reactivate the engines, but keep them low. We do not want to make too much noise yet. Yes, Commander. Reynolds watched the harvester ship move closer to the rocks. The survivors were running out of time. Take us in, Reynolds said to the pilot. Slowly. Stay in the shadows. The Valiant began to move. It glided silently through space. It moved like a ghost toward the asteroid belt. As they got closer, the rocks looked bigger. Some were as big as houses. Some were as big as cities. It was a dangerous place. One wrong move and the ship would crash. "Commander," David said. "I am picking up more signals. Not just one ship. There are more. The whole 7th Fleet is hiding in there." Reynolds was surprised. "The whole fleet?" "Yes, sir. But they are damaged. Many ships have no power. They are sitting ducks." The harvester reached the edge of the asteroid field. It opened its mouth. It released hundreds of small drones. They looked like bees. They flew into the rocks to hunt for the survivors. "They are sending the drones in," Sarah said. "The big ship cannot fit in the small spaces." Reynolds saw a chance. "The big ship stays outside. That is the key. We cannot destroy the big ship, but we can confuse it." "How?" David asked. "We need to get inside the field," Reynolds said. "We need to find the leader of the 7th Fleet. We need to work together." The Valiant flew between two giant asteroids. They entered the belt. It was dark inside. The light from the stars was blocked by the rocks. "Shields up," Reynolds ordered. "Just in case we hit a small rock." The ship shook slightly as small dust hit the shields. "Commander," David said. "I have a communication request. It is coming from deep inside the field. It is a coded signal." "Put it through," Reynolds said. A voice filled the bridge. It sounded angry and arrogant. "Identify yourself," the voice said. "This is High Prelate Xylos of the 7th Fleet. You are entering a restricted zone. Leave now or we will fire." Reynard smiled. It was good to hear a live voice, even if it was rude. "This is Commander Mark Reynolds of the UEC Valiant," he said into the microphone. "We are here to help." "We do not need help from humans," Xylos spat. "You are primitives. Go away before you get hurt." "Look outside, Prelate," Reynolds said calmly. "Your ships are hiding. The silicate harvester is waiting for you. You are trapped." There was silence on the line for a moment. "We have a plan," Xylos said, but he did not sound sure. "We are waiting for reinforcements." "There are no reinforcements coming," Reynolds said. "We saw the debris. You are alone." "We are here." The alien did not answer. Reynolds could tell that the alien was scared. "Let us come to you," Reynolds said. "We can help you fight the drones." "Fine," Xylos said finally. "But stay out of our way. Do not embarrass us." Reynolds turned off the radio. He looked at his crew. "They are arrogant," Sarah said. "But they are scared. They have never fought a war like this," Reynolds said. "They are used to standing in a line and shooting. We are going to show them how to survive." The Valiant went deeper into the asteroid field. Suddenly, the radar beeped. "Drones!" David shouted. "A group of silicate drones is heading right for us." Reynolds grabbed the handles of his chair. "Battle stations. Here we go." The drone ships appeared from behind a rock. They were fast and ugly. They had no windows. They had sharp claws. "Target them," Reynolds ordered. "Locked on," David said. "Fire." The Valiant shook as the guns fired. Blue lasers shot out. They hit the lead drone. The drone exploded. "Yes!" Sarah cheered. But there were more drones. They swarmed toward the human ship. Evasive maneuvers. Reynolds shouted. Don't let them hit us. The Valiant rolled to the side. It dodged the rocks and the enemy fire. We made them angry, David said. Good, Reynolds said. Now, let's go find the aliens. The ship flew deeper into the dark maze. They were going towards the heart of the battle. They were going to save the fleet that everyone thought was lost. The UEC Valiant moved deeper into the asteroid field. The rocks here were massive, casting long, dark shadows over the ship. Commander Mark Reynolds stood at the front of the bridge, watching the darkness closely. They were flying blind in many ways, but the sensors were picking up more signals. I have visual contact, David Kim said. His voice was tense. Look at the screen, Commander. The main screen flickered to life. It showed a large clearing among the asteroids. Sitting there, damaged and smoking, were the ships of the 7th Fleet. They were beautiful vessels, sleek and silver, with long, elegant wings. But now, they looked like broken birds. Many had huge holes in their sides. Some were drifting without power. Lights flickered on and off across their hulls. They are in bad shape, Sarah Miller said from her station. She shook her head. I do not know how they are still alive. Hail them again, Reynolds ordered. This is Commander Reynolds, he spoke into the comm system. We are approaching your position. Please do not shoot us. A voice answered. It was the same voice as before, High Prelate Xylos. I see you, human. Your ship is small and ugly. It looks like a flying brick, Reynolds sighed. It gets the job done. We are docking to assist you. We did not ask for assistance, Xylos snapped. But our engines are failing. We cannot maintain the dampening field much longer. You may come alongside. The Valiant slowly maneuvered next to the largest ship, the Alliance Honor. It was a grand ship, or it used to be. Now, scorch marks covered its silver skin. The airlock doors hissed open, and a connection tube extended from the Valiant to the alien ship. I am going over there, Reynolds said. David, you come with me. Sarah, you stay here and keep the engines ready. We might need to leave fast. Yes, sir, Sarah said. Reynolds and David put on their space suits. They carried their helmets under their arms. They walked through the connecting tube and entered the alien ship. The air inside smelled stale. It smelled like burnt plastic and ozone. They were greeted by a group of aliens. The aliens were tall and thin. They had feathers on their heads and bright, yellow eyes. They wore tight silver uniforms. High Prelate Xylos stood in the middle. He looked down at the humans with a look of disgust. I am Xylos, the alien said. He did not offer a hand to shake. This is my officer, Kale. Reynolds nodded. I am Commander Reynolds. This is Lieutenant Kim. You are primitives, Xylos said immediately. Your ship uses chemical thrusters. We stopped using those 1,000 years ago. Your armor is simple steel. It is pathetic. Reynolds kept his face calm. He was used to this. The Galactic Alliance always looked down on Earth. Maybe our tech is simple, but we are here to help. Can you fix your ships? Kale, the other alien, stepped forward. He looked at a data tablet. No. The dampening field created by the swarm is blocking our energy matrix. We cannot recharge our shields. We cannot jump to light speed. If that big ship outside finds us, we are finished. Why don't you fight? David asked. You have guns. Our weapons are designed for long-range precision, Xylos explained arrogantly. We do not fight in the dirt like savages. We engage from a distance, with honor. But in this asteroid field, our sensors are blinded. We cannot get a clear lock. The swarm uses small, fast drones. They are like insects. It is undignified to chase insects. Reynolds looked at Kale. And while you wait for dignity, the drones are eating you. Kale looked down, embarrassed. We are running out of time, prelate. Perhaps we should listen to the humans. Listen to them, Xylos laughed. Look at them. They are soft. They have short lives. What do they know about war? David stepped forward. He was nervous, but he spoke up. With respect, sir, we know about survival. Earth has fought many wars. We don't always have the best tools, but we adapt. We don't care about dignity. We care about winning. Reynolds put a hand on David's shoulder to calm him. Show me your engine room, Reynolds said to Xylos. Maybe my engineer can help. Xylos looked annoyed, but he waved his hand. Kale, take them to the engineering deck. Do not let them touch anything important. Kale led Reynolds and David through the hallways of the ship. The hallways were round and smooth. Everything was white and clean, except for the damage from the battle. Wires hung from the ceiling. Steam hissed from broken pipes. They reached the engine room. It was huge. In the center sat a bright blue orb. It was the power source. It pulsed with light. Sarah Miller was already there. She had beamed over with a repair kit and was looking at the blue orb. She looked frustrated. The energy flow is blocked, Sarah said to Reynolds. The silicates are sending a jamming signal. It's like a wall of noise. The alien engines can't breathe. Kale stepped in. Our engineers have tried everything. We cannot filter the noise. Sarah walked up to the main control panel. It was covered in thousands of alien symbols and touch screens. It's too complicated, she said. You have too many safety protocols. You are trying to analyze the signal. You need to just block it. Kale scoffed. That is not how we do things. We must calculate the frequency and adjust the harmonic resonance. We don't have time for calculations, Sarah said. She opened her toolbox. She pulled out a thick pair of wire cutters. What are you doing? Kale shouted. Put that down. Sarah, Reynolds warned. What is the plan? The plan is to hit it, Sarah said. Watch. She reached into an open panel behind the console. She grabbed a bunch of thick cables, the thick ones that carry raw power. Kale, I need you to reroute the backup generators to these shields. Those cables are not meant for that. Kale yelled. It will cause a power surge. Exactly, Sarah smiled. A big surge. Commander. David shouted from the door. He was looking at his scanner. The drones are back. The harvester has sent a new wave. They are entering the field right now. Reynolds looked at the monitor. Red dots were swarming toward their location. There were hundreds of them. How long until they get here? 2 minutes, David said. Kale looked at Sarah. If you do this, you might blow up the ship. If we do nothing, the drones will blow us up, Reynolds said firmly. Do it, Sarah. Sarah stripped the ends of the wires. She took a deep breath. She touched the two bare wires together. Zzzzzzzt. A giant spark flew. The lights in the engine room went out for a second. Then, they came back on, brighter than before. A low hum started to vibrate through the floor. The blue orb in the center began to spin faster. The surge worked. Kale shouted. He looked at his tablet. The interference is gone. We have power. Get to the bridge. Reynolds ordered. We have to move. They ran back to the airlock and returned to the Valiant. Reynolds ran to the captain's chair. Report. He yelled. The drones are fast, David said. They will be on top of us in 30 seconds. Alliance ships, Reynolds spoke into the radio. Can you move? Yes, Xylo's voice came back. He sounded surprised. We have power. But the drones are too many. We cannot shoot them all. We are trapped. Reynolds looked at the tactical map. The drones were coming from one direction, swarming through a narrow passage between two large asteroids. It was a bottleneck. They are grouping up, Reynolds said. They think they have us. Commander, Sarah said from the back. I boosted the engines. We have more speed now. Good, Reynolds said. He looked at the asteroid map. It was crazy. It was suicide. But it was the only way. Alliance ships, listen to me, Reynolds commanded. Do not fire your main beams. They will miss. You need to follow us. We are going into the rocks. What? Xylos screamed. That is suicide. The passage is too narrow. It is wide enough if you are brave, Reynolds said. Pilot, take us in. Full speed. The Valiant turned sharply. The engines roared. The ship shot forward like a bullet. It flew straight toward the asteroid field. Commander, the drones are firing. David yelled. Red lasers shot past the Valiant. Some hit the shields, making the ship shake. Punch it! Reynolds yelled. The Valiant entered the narrow passage. The walls of rock flew past inches from the windows. It looked like they were going to crash. The Alliance is not following. David said. They have to, Reynolds said. If they stay, they die. Suddenly, the Alliance honor appeared behind them. It was moving clumsily, but it was following. Then came the other ships. The silver ships dived into the maze after the human ship. They are actually doing it, Sarah said. They are desperate, Reynolds said. David, prepare the weapons. But don't use the lasers. Sir. Load the kinetic rounds, Reynolds said. The old-fashioned stuff. Big metal slugs. Loaded, David said. The swarm of drones was right behind them. They were fast and agile, flying between the rocks with ease. But they were following the Alliance ships. Sarah, Reynolds said. Can you trigger a rock fall? Sarah looked at her sensors. There is a loose cluster of asteroids above us. If we hit it with a EMP burst, the magnetic locks might fail. Do it, Reynolds ordered. Sarah flipped a switch. An invisible wave shot out from the top of the ship. It hit the ceiling of the asteroid tunnel. Huge boulders, some as big as the Valiant, began to wobble. Then, they fell. Watch out! David shouted. The Valiant banked hard to the left. A massive rock crashed down right where they had been a second ago. Behind them, the Alliance honor swerved, barely missing it. But the drones were not so lucky. They were packed tightly together. The falling rocks crushed them. Dozens of drones were smashed into pieces. The passage was blocked by the debris. Yes. Sarah cheered. We blocked the path. The main group is stuck, Reynolds said. But there are more coming from the side. The ship burst out of the narrow passage into a wider clearing. But they were not safe yet. The Valiant had led the aliens into a trap, but they were still surrounded. We can't run forever, Reynolds said. He looked at the tactical map. We need to make a stand here. Commander, David said. I am reading a massive energy spike from the harvester outside the field. It is angry. It knows we are here, Reynolds said. It is sending the big ones. Look. On the screen, 3 huge shapes emerged from the dust. They were not small drones. They were heavy cruisers of the swarm. They were heavily armored and covered in spikes. We can't fight those, David said. Our guns won't scratch them. Reynolds looked at the damaged Alliance ships. They were terrified. Xylos came over the radio. Human. You led us into a dead end. I told you this was foolish. Calm down, Xylos, Reynolds said. He looked at the rocks surrounding them. He looked at the heavy alien cruisers. They were slow. They turned slowly. They are big, Reynolds said. But they are clumsy. And they think we are scared. We are scared, David whispered. Good, Reynolds said. Fear keeps you sharp. Battle stations. We are not going to run anymore. We are going to show these aliens how humans fight. The 3 heavy cruisers of the silicate swarm moved into the clearing. They looked like jagged mountains of black metal floating in space. Their surfaces were covered in spikes and strange moving parts. They did not have smooth lines like human or Alliance ships. They looked ugly and mean. Each cruiser was twice the size of the Valiant. Commander Mark Reynolds watched them from the bridge. The red warning lights flashed, painting the room in a dangerous glow. He knew the human ship could not take a hit from one of those big guns. Shields are at maximum, David Kim reported. His knuckles were white as he gripped the edge of his console. But Commander, those ships have plasma cannons. One shot could break our shield. I know, David, Reynolds said calmly. Don't let them hit us. Suddenly, the radio crackled. It was High Prelate Xylos. Human. Your plan failed. We are trapped. Those are destroyer-class ships. They will tear us apart. I am ordering my fleet to retreat to the edge of the field. Maybe we can hide again. Retreating won't work, Xylos, Reynolds said into the microphone. They have sensors that track heat. If you run, your engines will get hot, and they will see you. We have to fight. You are insane, Xylos hissed. Your tiny ship is useless. We are done for. Reynolds ignored the alien. He turned to Sarah Miller. Sarah, are the railguns ready? Yes, Commander, Sarah said. She had a wild look in her eyes. The capacitors are charged. We have full ammo. I also overrode the safety limiters on the cooling system. We can fire faster, but the guns might get hot. That is a risk we have to take, Reynolds said. He looked at the pilot. James Wilson, are you in the hangar? I am here, Commander, James replied over the intercom. His voice sounded cool and confident. My squad is ready. We are sitting in the cockpits now. Launch the fighters, Reynolds ordered. Go. In the lower deck of the Valiant, the heavy blast doors opened. The launch catapults engaged. 12 small, sleek human fighters shot out into space. They looked like needles compared to the massive alien cruisers. They had no big shields, relying on their speed and armor. "This is Wolf Leader," James's voice came through the bridge speakers. "We are in the void. Targets are locked. It is a beautiful day for a fight." "Be careful, Hawk," Reynolds said. "Those ships are tough." "We are not aiming for the ships," James said. "We are aiming for the eyes." The alien cruisers began to charge their weapons. Blue light gathered at the tips of their spikes. They were preparing to fire at the Valiant and the damaged Alliance ships. The Alliance ships were trying to form a line, just like they did in training, but they were too slow. "Here they come!" David yelled. The swarm cruisers fired. Huge beams of blue energy shot across the void. They missed the Valiant but hit a large asteroid nearby. The rock exploded into dust in a second. "Everyone, scatter!" Reynolds shouted to the fleet. "Do not fly in a straight line." Just as the Alliance ships started to panic, the human fighters attacked. James Wilson led his squadron into a steep dive. They did not fly in formation. They flew everywhere. They twisted, turned, and rolled like angry hornets. The alien gunners tried to track them, but the human ships were too fast. The aliens were used to shooting at big, slow targets. They could not predict the crazy moves of the human pilots. "Fox 3!" James yelled. A missile streaked away from James's fighter. It did not hit the thick armor of the cruiser. Instead, it hit a small sensor dish on the front of the ship. The dish exploded. "Impact!" James shouted. "I blinded its left eye." The alien ship shuddered. It turned its remaining sensors toward the fighters, exposing its side to the Valiant. "Now, Sarah!" Reynolds yelled. "Fire the railguns!" The Valiant shook violently as the massive railguns fired. They did not shoot lasers or plasma. They shot solid slugs of tungsten metal, each as big as a car. The slugs moved so fast that they were invisible. They traveled through the empty void without a sound. Then, they hit. The slugs smashed into the side of the lead alien cruiser. There were no explosions, just deafening crunches. The kinetic energy was so powerful that the metal armor crumpled like paper. Huge holes were punched through the ship. Debris flew out into space. Internal fires erupted inside the enemy vessel. "Direct hit!" David cheered. "Their armor is useless against kinetic rounds. It is too hard." "Reload!" Reynolds ordered. "Target the engines." The alien cruiser tried to turn, but it was damaged. It moved slowly. On the bridge, High Prelate Xylos was watching. He was shocked. How did they do that?" he whispered. "They used physical projectiles. That is barbaric. It is primitive." "It works," Reynolds said over the radio to the aliens. "Stop staring and start shooting. Aim for their joints and sensors. Use your point defense cannons." Xylos hesitated for a second. Then, his pride took over. "Very well. We will try your primitive way." The Alliance ships began to fire their smaller guns. They were not used to aiming at specific weak points, but they had many guns. A rain of laser fire hit the damaged cruiser. Meanwhile, the second and third cruisers were angry. They turned their attention to the Valiant. They launched hundreds of small drones to attack the human ship. "Commander! Drone wave incoming!" David shouted. "Too many to count." "Evasive maneuvers!" Reynolds commanded. The Valiant banked hard to the right. It flew behind a large asteroid. The drones swarmed around the rock, trying to find a way to shoot. "We are pinned down," Sarah said. If we leave this rock, they will tear us apart. Hawk, do you copy? Reynolds asked. Loud and clear, Commander, James replied. Those drones are annoying. Clear the path for us, Reynolds ordered. Make a hole. Roger that. The human fighters stopped attacking the big cruisers. They flew toward the asteroid where the Valiant was hiding. Watch this, James said to his wingman. Follow my lead. James flew straight at the swarm of drones. At the last second, he deployed flares. The bright lights confused the drones for a moment. He flew right through the middle of them, his guns blazing. The other 11 fighters did the same. They flew in chaotic patterns. The drones tried to catch them, but the human pilots were better. The drones were programmed with basic tactics. They did not know how to react to pure chaos. The sky around the asteroid lit up with small explosions as drones were destroyed one by one. They are breaking formation, David said. Now, punch it, Reynolds yelled. The Valiant surged forward from behind the rock. Its railguns were spinning again. Target the second cruiser, Reynolds pointed. The ship fired another volley of tungsten slugs. They slammed into the front of the second cruiser. The impact was so hard that it pushed the massive ship backward. The cruiser lost control and drifted into a floating rock. The collision tore a huge gash in its side. We have them on the run, Sarah shouted. But the battle was not over. The third cruiser, the biggest one, stopped moving. It sat in the center of the clearing. Its spikes began to glow red. David, what is it doing? Reynolds asked. He felt a bad feeling in his stomach. I don't know, David said, looking at the scanner. Energy readings are off the charts. It is charging a massive weapon. Not the cannons. Something else. The cruiser opened a massive hatch in its front, a giant, red orb of energy formed. It is a bomb, Sarah yelled. A gravity bomb. It will crush everything in this field. Xylos, get out of there, Reynolds screamed into the radio. That ship is going to blow. The Alliance ships tried to turn away, but they were too slow. The gravity bomb would not just explode, it would create a black hole for a few seconds and suck everything in. We can't outrun that, James said over the radio. My engines are not strong enough to get clear. Reynolds looked at the tactical map. The bomb would kill everyone. The aliens, the human fighters, the Valiant. They would all be crushed. Think, Reynolds said to himself. Think. He looked at the asteroid belt. He looked at the damaged cruisers. Sarah, Reynolds said. Can we transfer all our power to the tractor beam? The tractor beam, Sarah asked, confused. It is for towing small ships. It is not a weapon. I know, Reynolds said. I have an idea. But it is crazy. We are fighting aliens in a rock field, Sarah said. Crazy is all we have. Do it, Reynolds ordered. Power transferred, Sarah said. David, target that asteroid over there, Reynolds pointed to a massive rock the size of a city. The one floating above the enemy ship. Locked, David said. Push it, Reynolds said. Push the rock with the tractor beam. The Valiant fired an invisible beam of energy at the giant asteroid. It hit the rock. The engines of the Valiant groaned under the strain. It is too heavy, Sarah yelled. We can't move it. Yes, we can, Reynolds said through gritted teeth. Just give it a nudge. We don't need to move it far. Just knock it off balance. The beam pushed the rock. Slowly, the giant asteroid began to tilt. It was resting on two smaller rocks. The push was enough. The giant rock lost its balance. It rolled over. Gravity took over. The massive asteroid began to fall straight down. The alien cruiser was still charging its bomb. It did not see the danger above it. "Everyone, get down!" Reynolds shouted. The city-sized asteroid fell. It hit the alien cruiser and crushed it instantly. There was no explosion, just a terrible sound of crunching metal. The red orb of energy fizzled out as the cruiser was flattened under the weight of the rock. Silence filled the bridge. Reynolds took a deep breath. "Did we get them?" David scanned the area. "The cruisers are destroyed, sir. The drones are shutting down. They lost their control ship." "We did it," Sarah whispered. "We actually did it." The cheer that went up from the crew was loud. Even David let out a shout of relief. "Wolf Leader, status?" Reynolds asked. "Still here, Commander," James said. "My squad took some hits, but we are flyable." "That was a close one." Reynolds sat back in his chair. He looked at the destruction they had caused. The human way of war was messy, but it worked. Then, the radio came on. It was Xylos again. He sounded quiet. He was not arrogant anymore. "Human, Commander," Xylos said. "That was unexpected. You used a rock to crush a starship. That is not in any of our military manuals." Reynolds smiled slightly. "We write our own manuals, prelate. Are you guys okay?" "We are alive," Xylos said. "Thanks to you. I apologize for my earlier words. You are not primitives. You are dangerous." "We are just survivors," Reynolds said. "Like you." The victory felt good, but Reynolds knew it was not the end. He looked at the edge of the asteroid belt. "David, check the long-range sensors." David typed on his keyboard. His smile faded. "Commander, I have a signal. It is very faint. But it is big." "Show me," Reynolds said. The screen showed a blip at the edge of the star system. It was far away, but it was huge. "It is the harvester," Reynolds said. "The big one we saw earlier. It felt the destruction of its cruisers. It is coming here." "Is it coming fast?" Sarah asked. "Yes," David said. "It is moving at high speed. It will be here in less than an hour." Reynolds stood up. His face became serious again. The celebration was over. "Xylos," Reynolds said. "Get your fleet ready. The boss is coming." "We can't fight that," Xylos said, his fear returning. "It is too big." Reynolds looked at the screen. The massive dot was getting closer. "We don't have a choice," Reynolds said. "We fought the small ones. Now we have to fight the monster." The silence on the bridge of the Valiant did not last long. The warning sirens began to wail again, a low, mournful sound that echoed in the metal walls. Commander Mark Reynolds stared at the main screen. The massive dot representing the harvester ship was growing larger. It was moving with a terrifying speed for something so big. "David," Reynolds said quietly. "How much time do we have?" David Kim looked at his screen, his face pale. 20 minutes, Commander. Maybe less. It is coming straight for the asteroid field. It is not trying to hide anymore." "Xylos, are you there?" Reynolds asked over the radio. High Prelate Xylos' voice came back. It was shaky. We are here, human. Our sensors confirm your data. It is the Hive Mother. The Harvester. It has never been defeated. We cannot win this fight. We don't need to win a war, Reynolds said. We just need to kill that one ship. What weapons do you have left? We have enough power for one full volley from our main beams, Xylos said. But its armor is too thick. Our beams will only scratch the paint. We need a better plan, Reynolds said. Bobby, come to the bridge. A moment later, Robert Bobby Lee walked in. Bobby was the communications officer. He was a short man with messy hair who always chewed on a pen. He looked nervous. What is up, Commander Bobby asked. We need a distraction, Reynolds said. Something big. Can you mess with their signal? Bobby thought for a second. Maybe. When we were fighting the drones, I noticed they use a specific frequency to talk to each other. It is like a buzz. If I broadcast a loud noise on that same frequency, it might hurt them. Hurt them how? Reynolds asked. It will be like screaming in someone's ear while they are trying to read, Bobby explained. It won't destroy the ship, but it will confuse the drones. It might even make the big ship hesitate. It disrupts their network. Do it, Reynolds said. Get ready to scream as loud as you can. Bobby sat at his station and started typing. Reynolds turned to Sarah Miller. Sarah, I need you to look at the engine schematics. I have an idea. Sarah looked up. What kind of idea? Can we overload the fusion core? Reynolds asked. The bridge went silent. Sarah's eyes went wide. Overload the core? You mean explode the ship? Yes, Reynolds said calmly. The Harvester is too big to shoot from the outside. It has too many guns. But if we fly inside its shield range and detonate the core, it might take it with us. Commander, Sarah stood up. That will kill us all. There is no escape pod fast enough to get away from a fusion explosion. I know, Reynolds said. But there are thousands of people on the Alliance ships. If we don't stop that thing here, it will go to the Alliance colonies. It will kill millions. The crew looked at each other. They were scared, but they did not run. They were human. Is there any way to survive? David asked softly. Not if we stay on the ship, Reynolds said. I will pilot the Valiant. I want the rest of you to get to the escape pods. No way, Commander, Sarah said, crossing her arms. I am the engineer. If I am not on the ship to control the overload, it won't work. I am staying. Me too, David said. Who is going to aim the ship if you are busy flying? Reynolds looked at his crew. He felt a swell of pride in his chest. You are crazy. All of you. We are Earthlings, Bobby Lee said from the back. We are stubborn. Okay, Reynolds said. We do this together. Bobby, prepare the signal. Sarah, start the overload sequence. David, find us a path through the rocks. Just then, the alien transmission came through. It was Xylos. Commander Reynolds. We are detecting a massive energy buildup in your ship. Are you planning to sacrifice yourselves? We are planning to win, Reynolds said. There was a pause. No, Xylos said. We cannot let you do this. It is illogical. But it is also noble. We will help. How? Reynolds asked. You can't stop the Harvester. No, Xylos said. But we can give you a clear shot. The harvester will expect you to run. It will aim at the escape pods. We will move our fleet in front of it. We will raise our shields. We will draw its fire. That is suicide for you, Reynolds said. We are already dead if we do nothing, Xylos said. Today, we fight as brothers. Reynolds looked at the screen. The harvester was getting close. It looked like a giant monster. Its arms were reaching out. Thank you, Xylos, Reynolds said. Bobby, hit them with the noise. Now, Bobby Lee flipped a switch. A sound went out over the radio waves. To humans, it sounded like static. But to the silicate swarm, it was agony. Outside the ship, the drones that were swarming suddenly froze. They started to fly in circles. They bumped into each other. The harvester ship slowed down. It seemed confused. It is working. David shouted. They are disoriented. Now. Reynolds yelled into the radio. Alliance fleet, fire. The Alliance ships, led by the Alliance Honor, swooped out from behind the asteroids. They fired every weapon they had. Lasers and plasma bolts hit the harvester's shields. The shields glowed bright red. The shields are down to 20%. Sarah reported. The Alliance is doing damage. But the harvester was strong. It recovered quickly. It turned its huge guns toward the Alliance ships. They are targeting the Alliance Honor. David said. Brace for impact. Reynolds watched as a beam of energy struck the alien flagship. The Alliance Honor spun out of control, smoke pouring from its hull. Honor is down. Xylos screamed. Our shields are failing. They can't hold the line much longer, Reynolds said. It is up to us. Sarah, is the core ready? Sarah looked at her screen. She typed in a long code. The core is unstable. We have 10 minutes before it blows. If we wait too long, we explode too early. If we are too late, they shoot us down. Pilot, take the controls, Reynolds said to the helmsman. Full speed ahead. Ramming speed. The Valiant roared to life. It left the safety of the asteroids and flew straight at the massive harvester. The ship was so big that it filled the entire window. Commander, we have multiple locks on us. David yelled. They are firing. The Valiant shook violently. Alarms blared. Shields at 50%. Sarah shouted. Hull breach on deck 3. Don't stop. Reynolds yelled. Keep going. Bobby Lee was still broadcasting the noise. The harvester's aim was off. The shots missed the vital parts of the Valiant, but the ship was taking heavy damage. Sparks flew on the bridge. Lights shattered. We are losing power. Sarah cried out. The engines are hit. The Valiant slowed down. The damaged engine sputtered and died. The ship drifted in space, helpless. No, Reynolds whispered. Not like this. The harvester loomed over them. Its giant mouth opened to swallow the small human ship. Commander, the overload stopped, Sarah said, tears in her eyes. The computer is frozen. We can't detonate it manually. We are dead. The alien ship prepared to fire the final shot. It was over. Humanity had tried, but they had failed. The Alliance ships were silent, watching in horror. Suddenly, a bright light filled the sky. It is the Alliance Honor. David shouted. The damaged alien flagship was moving. It was not running away. It was flying straight at the harvester. High prelate Xylos had made a choice. "Goodbye, humans," Xylos' voice came over the radio. It was calm. "You taught us how to fight." The Alliance honor slammed into the side of the harvester at full speed. The explosion was blinding. The alien ship's warp core detonated. The blast wave hit the Valiant, spinning it around like a toy. The shock wave knocked the wind out of Reynolds. When the lights came back on, Reynolds looked at the screen. The Alliance honor was gone. But the harvester was damaged. A huge hole was torn in its side. Its shields were completely gone. "It is wounded," Reynolds whispered. "But it is still firing." The harvester turned its remaining guns toward the drifting Valiant. It was angry now. "We have no engines," Sarah said. "We can't move." "We can't ram it without engines," Reynolds said. "We are sitting ducks." David looked at his screen. "Wait. I have an idea. The shuttle bay. The doors are jammed open. If we detonate the core now, the explosion might go out the back. It won't hit the harvester directly." "We need to push the explosion," Reynolds said. "How?" "Bobby," David said. "Can you broadcast a pulse on the harvester's frequency, not a scream? A push. A command to approach." Bobby looked confused. "You want to hack it?" "Yes," David said. "Tell it we are a prize. Tell it to come closer and eat us." Bobby started typing furiously. "I am trying. Their code is complex, but they are hungry. I think it is buying it." The harvester stopped firing. It moved closer. It wanted to capture the Valiant, not destroy it. It wanted to absorb the human technology. "It is coming right for us," Reynolds said. "Sarah, restart the core. Just for a second. Give me a spark." Sarah worked her controls. "I am bypassing the safety locks. I can give you one shot. The engine will explode 10 seconds after it starts." "We have to time it perfectly," Reynolds said. "Wait until it is inside the minimum safe distance." The giant alien ship hovered over the Valiant. Its metal tentacles reached down to grab the human ship. "Wait," Reynolds said. "Wait." The tentacles touched the hull. "Now!" Reynolds shouted. Sarah slammed her fist on the activate button. The engine roared to life. The Valiant shot forward like a bullet. The sudden movement was unexpected. The Valiant drove itself straight into the open wound in the harvester's side. It flew deep inside the alien ship. "Detonation in 5 seconds, the computer voice said. "We are inside," Reynolds said. "Goodbye, you ugly monster." 4. 3. 2. Reynolds closed his eyes. The screen went white. The white light faded away slowly. It was replaced by darkness and the sound of a loud, high-pitched ringing in Commander Mark Reynolds' ears. He opened his eyes, but he could not see anything. Smoke filled the bridge of the Valiant. It was thick and smelled like burning plastic. "Report," Reynolds tried to say, but his voice was just a whisper. He coughed and tried again. "Is anyone alive?" For a terrible moment, there was no answer. Then, he heard a groan from the floor. I think so," said Sarah Miller. Her voice sounded weak. She crawled out from under a console. Her face was covered in black soot, but she was moving. "David," Bobby Reynolds called out. "Here," David Kim said. He was holding his arm, but he was sitting up. "I am okay. My head hurts, though." "Same," Bobby Lee said. He was shaking dust out of his hair. That was way too close. Reynolds struggled to stand up. His legs felt like jelly. He grabbed the edge of his chair for support. He looked at the main view screen. It was cracked, but it still worked. What he saw made him gasp. The harvester was still there, but it was dying. The front of the ship, the part that looked like a squid's head, was gone. It had been blown to pieces. Fires were burning all over its hull. It was drifting in space, spinning slowly and helplessly. "We did it," Sarah whispered. "We actually blew it up from the inside." "Wait," David said, looking at his screen. "Look at the escape pod sensors. The Valiant is intact." Reynolds looked at the ship's status board. The core didn't detonate fully. The blast wave blew out the rear hatch and pushed the ship out of the explosion before the full power build-up. "We are damaged, but we are floating. We are alive," Reynolds said. A smile spread across his face. "We are actually alive." Suddenly, the radio crackled. "Commander. Commander Reynolds. This is the Alliance Resolve. Do you copy?" Reynolds froze. He knew that voice. It was Admiral Thomas Vance. "Admiral," Reynolds said into the microphone. "Is that you?" "It is me, Commander," Vance said. His voice was filled with relief. "We saw the explosion from the jump point. We thought we lost you." "You are here?" Reynolds asked, confused. "The fleet arrived." "We arrived just in time to see the fireworks," Vance said. "But it looks like you did the hard work for us." Reynolds looked out the window. In the distance, he saw the blue streaks of light as 20 massive United Earth Coalition ships dropped out of hyperspace. They were heavy cruisers, battleships, and carriers. The Wolf Pack had arrived. "Commander," Admiral Vance continued. "Scan the area. Are there any hostile targets left?" David scanned the debris field. "The harvester is dead, sir. The drones are shutting down. They are drifting. The battle is over." "Excellent work, Commander," Vance said. "Stand by for rescue and repair teams." Reynolds sat back in his chair. He let out a long breath he did not know he was holding. It was over. The 7th Fleet was saved. The monster was dead. A few hours later, the Valiant was docked inside the massive hangar bay of the UEC Resolve. The medical team had checked Reynolds and his crew. They had a few broken bones and cuts, but they were alive. Reynolds walked down the ramp of his ship. Admiral Vance was waiting for him at the bottom. The older man was smiling, but his eyes were serious. "Mark," Vance said. "You pulled off a miracle." "I had a good crew, Admiral," Reynolds said. "And a little bit of luck." "We watched the battle logs," Vance said. "You fought that thing with a single ship. You saved the aliens." "They were helpless, sir," Reynolds said. "We couldn't leave them." Just then, the large blast doors of the hangar opened. A group of aliens walked in. They were led by High Prelate Xylos. He looked different now. His feathers were dirty, and his uniform was torn. He walked with a limp. He looked tired, but he held his head high. Next to him walked a younger alien, Kale. They were followed by other officers from the 7th Fleet. Reynolds and Vance stepped forward to meet them. Xylos stopped in front of Reynolds. For a long time, the alien just looked at the human. There was no arrogance in his eyes anymore. Only respect. "Commander Reynolds," Xylos said. "I owe you my life. I owe the lives of my entire fleet to you. Reynolds nodded. We fought together, Xylos. You destroyed the shields with your ship. That was a brave move. Xylos looked down. The Alliance Honor was a good ship. But I learned something that day. I learned that fancy technology does not make a warrior. Courage does. Admiral Vance stepped forward. I am Admiral Vance of the United Earth Coalition. Welcome to our ship, High Prelate. Xylos looked at the Admiral. For many cycles, the Galactic Alliance has looked at Earth as a primitive planet. We thought you were too young, too aggressive to join us as equals. Vance raised an eyebrow. And now? Now, Xylos said, bowing his head slightly. We see that humanity has something we lost a long time ago. You have a fire in you. You do not fear death. You do not fear the odds. You are fierce. We are just people trying to survive, Vance said. You are more than that, Xylos said. You are the wolves of the void. When the darkness came, you did not hide. You bit back. Kale, the younger alien, spoke up. We have sent a report to the Alliance Council. We told them what you did. I believe they will want to make a new treaty. A real one. Not as a superior to a child, but as brothers. That would be good, Reynolds said. Because there are more monsters out there. Yes, Xylos said gravely. The silicate swarm is vast. This was only one harvester. There will be more. Reynolds looked at his crew. David, Sarah, and Bobby were standing behind him, listening. They looked bruised but proud. Then we will be ready, Reynolds said. Next time, we won't be caught by surprise. Admiral Vance smiled. You have earned some rest, Commander. But the galaxy is changing. Humanity is not just a guest anymore. Today, we became a player. Reynolds looked out of the open hangar doors. He could see the stars. They looked the same as before, but he knew they were different. The Alliance knew them now. They knew that humans might have simple ships, but they had brave hearts. Come on, Reynolds said to his crew. Let's go get something to eat. I'm starving. David laughed. I thought you'd never ask, sir. As they walked away from the officers and the aliens, Reynolds felt a sense of peace. They had gone into the dark, and they had come back with a victory. The lost fleet was found, and in the process, humanity had found its place in the stars. The story of the Valiant would be told in alien schools and human bars for years to come. They would say that when the situation was hopeless, when the monsters were at the door, the humans did not surrender. They just loaded their guns, flew into the danger, and said, let's dance. Commander Mark Reynolds smiled. The battle was over, but the war for the galaxy was just beginning. And humanity was ready.